My name is Alice from Infona. Welcome to NileWell, the first online platform that connects environment researchers and journalists.
My name is Judith and Annonciata. I'm a senior multimedia journalist working with a New Vision newspaper, and I've been working there reporting on the environment for the past 20 years.
My name is Mary Akurut. I have a doctorate in engineering science, focusing on water resources and climate change. My research interests are in water quality, climate change around Lake Victoria, and I'm currently working with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company as the manager dam safety and water resources.
The scientists believe that their role is to work in the lab, do their research somewhere in the research office, and they have no business with the media. And yet, the media can add value to their work by reporting it and making sure that it reaches so many people. And this has been quite a challenge. The NileWell is bringing these two parties together to be able to interact, to be able to chase the mistrust that has been existing between the two parties.
NileWell is a unique platform. It helps to interlink the journalists, the scientists, students and other researchers. It gives you a platform to also link to your own work, and also it gives you updates on the current and existing information that you have on the Nile Basin.
You see, in many cases, the journalists, the first time, they may not get it right. But through continuous interaction with the scientists, they'll be able to learn a lot more, and they'll be able to learn correctly. I'm a living example of that. The way I was reporting 20 years ago is not the way I was reporting 10 years ago, and it is different from the way I was reporting 5 years ago.
It's important that we join this NileWell platform because it helps us to link between scientists and journalists and provides information to the public in a way that is really understood and information that is scientifically proven. So this is a good link that you need to join. So go NileWell.
So what are you waiting for? Create an account today by logging on to www.nilewell.org.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alice from
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the 19th session of NileWell Science Wednesday. I'm happy to see you all here. Welcome, everyone. Can see a good number of people. There's Frank Semata, Corley, good afternoon. There's Henry Owino, Caroline Tomno, Tewodros Kasa. Thank you very much for joining us. I can also see Dr. Judith, one of our guest speakers, is already here with us. Welcome very much. Welcome, Phil, welcome. I don't know if there's someone else. We're still waiting for Annonciata to join us. In the meantime, I think we can just start off. She will find us, if I'm not wrong. In the meantime, guys, please feel free to introduce yourself. Please type in your name, type in your country. If you feel free, you could type in your organization if you don't mind. And also let us know if you're a scientist or a journalist. Welcome once again. My name is Daly Sive. I work with Infonel in the communications department. And this is the 19th session of the NileWell Science Wednesday. We are very happy to have you here with us. Maybe for those who are joining us for the first time, a brief introduction of what Infonel is. We are a geojournalism organization. We comprise about 1,000 journalists, network of journalists within the Nile Basin, and we cover stories on water and the environment. And our style of reporting is that we use data and science-based multimedia storytelling. And so one of our mission is to bridge the gap between journalists and scientists. And we do this by facilitating collaboration between journalists and scientists. And this made the birth of our platform Nilewell, which facilitates this. And out of Nilewell, we were able to come up with the Nilewell Science Wednesday. This session started in 2023, March. This is our 19th session. So you might be asking yourself, why do we have the Nilewell Science Wednesday? Nilewell Science Wednesday is a platform, a learning platform, a networking session for journalists and scientists, communication topics that are shared. And we hope as journalists you're able to get some story ideas out of this, so you learn something new on how you can endeavor to collaborate with the journalists within your circle, with or within your country. Once again, I encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat box. Feel free to let us know your name, your country, your organization, whether you're a journalist or a scientist. The hashtags we're going to use is Sci Wednesdays. You can also use the hashtag Nilewell and tag us at Info9. We'll be glad to retweet, share, or even repost repost what you have shared. And just to let you know that this session is being live streamed on YouTube and also on Nilewell on the resources section. And just before we start, I'm so glad to have all of you here, but I'd like us to make the session as interactive as possible. I'll give you a platform to ask the questions to the journalist, the guest speakers, both the journalists and the scientists in the house. But in the meantime, as they're presenting, please ensure that your mic is muted. You can type your questions in the chat box. However, I'm also going to give you a chance to unmute at the end of the session, unmute and directly ask your question if you would like to. But if you don't, feel free to type your question in the chat box. You can also use the raise hand emoji in case you have to interrupt midway. So a quick dive into what our topic of the day is. Today we are going to discuss how Rwanda is considering groundwater monitoring for early prediction of drought. And basically what they are doing is that they would like to combat water scarcity, especially in the eastern region of eastern region of Rwanda, sorry. So our guest speakers is, we have a scientist, Dr. Judith Uwihirwe, and we also have a journalist, a notable journalist, award-winning journalist for that matter. Her name is Annonciata Byukusenge. Both of them are from Rwanda. So today I'm going to change the approach. I'm not going to read their bios or give you a summary of what they are. I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves to you. So probably that will be more memorable to you all. So I'm going to start with Dr. Judith. Please feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know what you do, your past achievements in the area of environmental science and etc. Anything else you'd like us to know before we start our session. Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Dr. Judith.
Hello, everyone.
Judith.
Yes.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, welcome.
My name is Judith Uwihirwe. It's actually a French name. Of course, Judith in English. I'm a lecturer at the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, abbreviated as RICA. I joined RICA 6 months ago, but I've been working at the University of Rwanda as a lecturer as well for 15 years. So my research are all about disasters prediction, but mainly water-related disasters, which include landslides, drought, as well as floods. So I have a number of publications, around 11 publications, and the majority of them are all about disasters prediction.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Judith. We hope to learn more from you. And maybe just to let you know that Dr. Judith and Annonciata were part of the first cohort of the Nilewell Journalist Scientist Co-Production Fellowship Program. And they have worked on this communication output based on a research that Dr. Judith did. And just this one of the outputs they have done was a story that we recently published. You can read the story using the link I am sharing in the chat box. And just like I have said, the partner is Annonciata Bukusenge. Annonciata, are you here with us? Let me check in the chat box in the members.
Afternoon, everyone.
Annonciata. Hello, Annonciata, how are you?
Have a fine day.
I'm sorry, your internet is not stable.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, although your voice is not so clear and there's some background
Yes.
noise.
My name is Annonciata Bikusenge. I'm a fire sector journalist present in Rwanda, in cross border. We attended the Nile well in 2023. We worked on the groundwater issues in the eastern Rwanda. And then I work with F450 magazine and I'm the F9 coordinator. Welcome of you in this session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Annonciata, although we are not able to hear you well. I think you probably need to adjust your mouthpiece. Is it an earphone you're using or something? Your voice is not so clear. So if you're able to adjust that before we get to you during the presentation, we'd really appreciate. Without further ado, I'd like us to move to the first speaker of the day, who is Dr. Judith Uwihirwe. Dr. Judith, feel free to take us through your research and let us know the key findings of what your research was about. Dr. Judith? Okay. We can see your screen, but we are not able to hear you. Hello, Dr. Judith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, are you ready to take us through your research? We had started seeing it, then you dropped off. Are you able to share your screen again?
Yeah, let me share my screen again. You able to see my screen, please?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it. Maybe just put it on full screen.
Is it on full screen now?
Not yet, at least on my end.
It's okay like this also. I think there's no problem like this. If you feel fine, you can.
Can you let me know if it's moving,
Not
please?
yet. It's not moving.
Okay.
Just take it easy. Don't worry. Just take it easy and adjust.
Okay. Even now?
Okay, I think you can just proceed. It's not moving. Try scrolling through the slides.
Yeah, I'm scrolling.
No, on my end, it's not moving. Chris, is it moving on your end? Or maybe the audience can let us know. Yeah, it's moving now.
So it's delaying a little bit, and
Yeah.
let me probably make it PDF so that it can move better.
Okay. Now this is much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here sharing with you my research findings on spatial temporal assessment of groundwater resources for early prediction of drought hazard in the eastern region of Rwanda. Of course, it was not my personal project. The project was undertaken by a team of around 4 people, including myself, and we collaborated with a journalist, Annonciata, to be able to make popular publications as well as scientific publications. So the idea of conducting this research was based on the findings of previous researchers who indicated that Rwanda and Burundi are the most extremely vulnerable countries of the Nile Basin to the predicted drought. And this was confirmed based on the capacity of a given country. Of course, that capacity is counted in terms of infrastructure, technology, human capacity, and economic resources to cope with a given hazard. So not all Rwanda is prone to this drought disaster. Only the eastern and the southeastern regions of Rwanda are the one who have been recorded to be experiencing recurring periods of drought, which of course always results in food insecurity. For example, there was a long dry season that have been recorded in years 98 until 2000, and also another annual drought hazard that has been recorded during the years 2002 and 2005. And those drought hazards themselves resulted in a loss of life for about 240 people, and also affected almost half of Rwandan population during that time. However, for every problem, there is always a solution. In other drought-prone regions, groundwater resources is used as a potential solution to solve the water scarcity problem. But the issue for Rwanda, I'm not talking about Burundi, the issue for Rwanda is that it has also been reported that it has now less than 5 years groundwater reserve, which means that if we overuse groundwater to solve the drought issue, we will end up depleting all the reserve of groundwater that we have, and we may it may lead to another kind of drought that we call hydrological drought, which is really difficult to recover once a given country experiences that kind of drought. But for other Nile Basin countries, the popular publications reported that they have more than 50 years of water. Rwanda and Burundi, they have between 5 and 10 years of groundwater. So only Rwanda is below the line with less than 5 years of groundwater reserve. All those reasons pushed us to conduct a research to know at least the dynamics of groundwater, if it's increasing or reducing, for Rwanda to take measures either to start preventing the expected drought or to be prepared to cope with that upcoming drought. So one of the way to monitor groundwater is by using boreholes or groundwater observation wells so that you can know how groundwater is changing, either increasing or decreasing, and then take measures on time. However, the distribution of those boreholes or groundwater observation wells is still poor, not only in Rwanda, but also in other African countries. So this research used the other solution, the other alternative source of groundwater information, which is global gravity-based groundwater. It's called G3 because of this 3G, global gravity-based groundwater, which is a satellite-based information. Those are satellite-based data that can provide information about the variation of groundwater all over the world. So we wanted to check if this source of information can help us to monitor groundwater in a spatial and temporal way for the case of Rwanda country, which is facing a depression of groundwater. So the main objective of our research was simply to test the capability of the G3. It's called the G3P because it was still a project to assess the dynamics or the variation of groundwater resources to be able to predict when we should expect drought to happen by observing the trends of groundwater resources in Rwanda. So we conducted this research in the 3 catchments of Rwanda, which are located in the Eastern Province. The first catchment is called Muvumba, another one is Akagera Upper, and another one is Akagera Lower, which are parts of Kagera transboundary shared between Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. And in that catchment, in that aquifer, the mean annual precipitation, which is recorded, ranged between 700 millimeters and around 1,000 millimeters, which is really small as compared to other regions of Rwanda. So to be able to conduct our research, of course, we use the in situ groundwater levels that we get by recording water levels inside the groundwater observation wells, the one that you can see on that picture. But for our case, we could only find the data for 2 boreholes, which overlap with the G3, with the groundwater storage anomalies recorded from the global gravity-based but also seasonally. Seasonally because a normal dry season, which are mainly in June and July and the part of August for the case of Rwanda, but we do also have normal rainy season. December. Whenever we have what we can call drought during those months, it should be called drought because it's within the expected rainy season. Those were like data from the boreholes, then from the global gravity-based groundwater storage that we call the G3P, we get them from IGLAC, which is an international groundwater resources assessment center, and we made the time series of those data using, of course, a programming language called Python. We did the same. We made the annual one during the 12 months, combining both rainy and dry season, but we extracted also the drought that may have happened during normal rainy season that we call the MAM and the SOND. So we tested the dynamic state of groundwater storage in each of the 3 catchments that I mentioned before to be able to see the capability of such satellite data to predict drought. Of course, we compared the 3 categories of data, the one from G3P and also the one from the boreholes, the 2 boreholes that I talked about, and the other one that we get from precipitation, because precipitation is also an indicator if we are going to get a drought hazard or not. That was for in situ groundwater levels that we get from boreholes. And then, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to move from one slide to the other one. And the precipitation, again, we used the satellite-based precipitation that we get data from a platform called the Climate Engine. Probably some of you may be knowing about this platform where you can get precipitation data. For drought prediction, we have 2 categories of drought. There is what we call hydrological drought, that we observe by analyzing groundwater data or hydrological data. There is another category of drought that we call meteorological drought, and that one, we get it, we manage to know if it's happening by using simply precipitation. To know the hydrological drought hazard, of course, we used the standardized groundwater the standardized groundwater index that we calculate from the observed groundwater levels from boreholes. And it is calculated using this formula by taking the observed groundwater levels or depth to reach water when you dig a hole, minus the mean groundwater level divided by the standard deviation. That's how we get to know this index that is used to predict the hydrological drought. And once this index is positive, means that we are facing a drought hazard, and when it is negative, means there is no drought. We are in wet conditions. Again, to predict drought, we used another index that we get from the G3, the G3P data, which is, of course, satellite data to monitor global groundwater. Again, to get it, it's a formula. You take the observed information divided by the standard deviation. And for this case, we say that we have drought when this index is negative. When it is negative, we have, of course, categories of drought. We may have mild one when this index is between 0 and about 1, and then between 1 and -1 and 0.49 we have a moderate drought, and again when you go beyond you have a severe drought and extreme drought when it is below -2. Then to predict the that we have drought when it is below 0, means when this value becomes negative, of course you are already in a drought situation. But as you can see, drought hazard has many categories. You may have mild one, which is a bit okay, we can survive with this one. We have moderate,
Unfortunately, I feel like we cannot hear Dr. Judith. Dr. Judith, I think your network has been unstable for the last few minutes. Are you able to hear us now? Uh-huh.
2018 was below the mean, which means that we were already under
Excuse me.
drought.
Excuse me, Dr. Judith.
Yes.
Sorry, we lost you at some point for like a minute. I don't know whether you are able to probably boost your internet. Maybe if you're using Wi-Fi, you can also put on your phone data just to boost what you're having. Also, we have lost your screen.
Oh, sorry. Let me connect to my data and see.
Yeah. In the meantime, guys, feel free to develop the questions, draft those questions you'd like to ask. If you would like to ask at the end of the session personally, I'll give you a chance to direct the question directly to her. If you feel like you're not able to ask it, feel free to type it in the chat box. Yeah, otherwise, I think we are learning quite a lot about the science in groundwater monitoring. I hope we all are, yeah. So, Dr. Judith, please let me know once you're ready to resume.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect it to my phone. I'll let you know
You can
once.
put your phone as a hotspot, so whichever will be available to your laptop, whichever will be stronger, your laptop will pick on it. As you're waiting for Dr. Judith, I can see a couple of us have also joined us. And thank you so much for letting us know who you are. Penina Malundo, welcome. Dairaki J. Moses from Burundi, we are grateful to have you here today. And David Kataratambi, that's a beautiful name. Yeah, welcome, welcome. So, Dr. Judith, we can see your screen once again. You can take it up.
Can you please let me know from where you lost me?
You could probably go
Also, I
back to the
was.
previous slide. Yeah, you could just finalize your summary of this and then you can move to the next slide.
Okay, I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been talking and I don't know where you lost me, but from here, I was talking about the drought prediction way techniques. We have normally two categories of drought. We have hydrological drought and meteorological drought. The hydrological drought is the one caused by the drying of the underground, means drawdown of groundwater, while the meteorological one is due to the scarcity of rain or precipitation. So we tested all categories, both categories of drought. For hydrological one, we used the data that we get from the groundwater observation wells, which is an index calculated by taking the data that you observe from groundwater observation well minus the normal mean divided by the standard deviation. And for this index, to know that you have drought or not, when this index is positive, means you are facing drought. When it is negative, you are in wet conditions. So we used this drought to be able to know the hydrological drought that Rwanda faced. And also we used the other index that we get from the satellite data that we call the G3 or G3P, which is called standardized groundwater storage anomaly, of course calculated by taking those groundwater storage anomalies divided by the standard deviation. To know that you are in a drought situation, this index has to be below 0. It has to be negative. When you are in negative, means that the groundwater storage is depleting, not increasing. And when you are in positive values, means you are, of course, in wet conditions. For meteorological drought, of course, we used another index called SPI, which is calculated by taking the normal rain that we collect minus the normal mean divided by the standard deviation. And for this index to help you know that you are in drought condition, it has to be in negative. When it is below 0, means that a given area is facing a drought hazard, but of course, hazards are in categories, and those categories are made by observing those values of indices. You may be in extreme drought, in severe drought, in moderate drought, or in mild drought, depending on the level of that index or index. Of course, when it is very worse, means that you are having very negative values, which is extreme drought. So by analyzing all those results, we find out that until 2013, starting from 2002, Rwanda was under drought conditions, but based on the meteorological one, we find out that we were in mild and moderate drought. Of course, based on meteorological information, which is SPI. And those categories of drought are shown by those dot, blue dot, and green dot on all of those figures. The upper one is for Muvumba, the middle one is for Akagera Lower, while the down one is Muvumba, middle one Akagera Lower, while the upper one is for Akagera catchment. You could see that in all three catchment before 2013, of course, we faced drought, and according to the SPI, the precipitation index, we were facing mild and moderate drought. However, the G3P information revealed something else. They revealed the other categories of drought, including the severe one, which means that we faced also the severe one during that period according to the G3P data. But after 2013, the G3P indicated that there was no drought, even though they were recurring mild and moderate drought based on precipitation data. Those are information from for both meteorological drought and hydrological drought, as well as the one that we got from the G3P. According to G3P, of course, before 2013, we faced a number of drought, and based on the historical record, also it is also documented that Rwanda faced a drought, serious drought during those years and the months that have been recorded. By using the borehole data, they also indicate that they are recurring drought which have not been serious after 2013. And you could see that the trend of groundwater storage is really positive because it's beyond this dashed line, which is an indicator of the mean groundwater storage. Once you are above this mean dashed line, means that the trend, the change in groundwater storage is really positive, which is a good hope that our groundwater is not depleting, instead it is restoring. Of course, our purpose was to compare the capability of the G3P data, which are globally and distributed, distributed all over the world. And of course, for the Rwanda, you can see the spatial distribution of groundwater storage using such kind of data. While the borehole one, they are point-based. You just observe groundwater levels in a particular point. By using this one, which are spatially distributed, of course, we were able to detect a number of drought hazard, and those predicted drought were compared with the one that are predicted using simply precipitation. And we find out that when you use precipitation, of course, you can predict mild and moderate drought, but the other categories are well predicted once you use the groundwater storage anomalies. As you could see, the blue bars are for the drought, are numbers of drought predicted using precipitation, while the orange one are numbers of drought predicted using the G3P data, which is an indicator that the G3P are a good predictor, of course, because they are able to predict all categories of drought, while precipitation one are able to predict only mild and moderate drought. This was done using the entire information all over the years, I mean on annual basis. Then by considering droughts that have been recorded during normal rainy season, we find out again that G3P data are good predictors, as you can see from the orange bars as compared to precipitation bars. Means that precipitation, of course, can be used as predictors of drought, but groundwater is a good predictor because the drought may continue even when it is raining. it's a cord clipping event because the soil does not get wet automatically after rain. And for example, people who use this soil like for agriculture may still undergoing a drought while we observe rain. So groundwater is a good predictor as compared to the precipitation. So as a conclusion, we find out that though popular publications and scientific publications are predicting Rwanda to be vulnerable to drought, there is a hope because currently groundwater is increasing, not reducing, as you observed from the trend of groundwater storage. We concluded also that precipitation-based index are still a good predictor, though groundwater-based indices are better predictors of drought because they are able to predict all categories of drought hazard. Of course, we concluded that the G3P, which provide spatially distributed data that you can know, that can help to know the spatial variability of the detected drought, could be a better predictor, could be a good alternative to the groundwater monitoring to be able to take measures before drought hazard happen. So I thank you so much for your kind attention. Of course, I expect the questions to clarify where it is not clear for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Judith. It was good to hear from you. I actually never knew that we have two types of droughts, so that is something I've learned today. Thank you very much. We are going to ask you questions at the end of the session. In the meantime, I'm going to allow Annonciata to come in and probably explain the journalistic perspective of how she used this research to write her story on Eastern Rwanda. And probably before she comes in case you didn't hear what Annonciata said about herself, Annonciata Bikusenge is a managing editor at Forefront Magazine. She's also a coordinator and mentor for data journalism at Infonel. She's also a freelance journalist at Dalberg Media and writes about science and environment, conservation, wildlife, and biodiversity. She's also an editor-in-chief. She was also an editor-in-chief between 2013-2015 and also 2019 and 2023, and a founding member of the Rwanda Environmental Journalists Association. She's also a member of Rwanda Female Journalists and the Rwanda Journalists Association. There are several accolades and awards that she has won that I'll not be able to go through them right now in the interest of time. So please allow me to give Annonciata a chance to take us through the journalistic perspective of her research. Hi, Annonciata.
Hi, Deli.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, we can hear you
Uh,
better right now. Are you able to
yes.
turn on your video?
Uh, my video, but because of network issues, I have
Okay,
to use, yes, the audio because I stand
okay,
outside. I'm not inside. So,
okay.
yes, about the journalistic in the water reporting, the main information, how I used the research from Dr. Judith in my reporting, actually the water reporting, focusing on informing the public about water these issues, including management, quality, available, and the impact on various aspect of life. It's involved the gathering, verifying, disseminating information about water, source, pollution, access to water, and the consequences of water scarce or the valley overuse. So in general, the journalists, we focusing on sanitation and the water sanitation, how they can use the population can use water in improving their daily life, how the community can use water to clean in their homes, but not yet go to the main thing which is very important on reporting about the issues groundwater, how the accessing water issues. So we can report on this. Between those information, sorry a bit.
Annonciata, please let us also know when you need us to move to the next slide. We are not able to tell when you're done with the current slide.
Yes, to cover, sorry. The covering water usage by sectors because the water are contributing in the agriculture, in the industry, domestic purpose, and the challenges of balancing these needs. The water quality also is very interesting to report on, and the water pollution sources, the impact on human health, ecosystem, clean up, polluted water bodies. So those are the information is all the issues as media we have to highlight in our reporting. So not yet achieve on this because we see the drought as the normal issues, but the shortage waters. Yes, sorry. Because the shortage waters is a problem around the world. It's not in Rwanda, East Africa, or in Africa. Around the world, the impact of drought caused by the insufficiency of groundwater affected the all sectors. The next slide. Next slide. Yes. About the water management in the journalistic sector, we need to report on how the water management is very important. We have to inform community how they can manage water, how can conserve water in their home, because the overuse also affect the community, the farms, the animal, domestic like a cow and the other animals also need more water because without water there is no life of those domestic animals. When we inform the community how they can manage water, the problem will reduce the seriousness of it, about it, to informing the community also. The policymakers will intervene.
Annonciata, we seem to have lost you. Hello, Annonciata. Okay, I really apologize for that technical hiccup, guys. I think let's give her about a minute or so to come back. We hope she'll be back to finalize on the presentation so we can move to the next bit of this session. Anonseta, please let me know
So,
if you can be able to hear
because
me.
the policymakers, when also the
Hello, Annunciata. Hello. Hello, Annunciata. I think she has dropped off the call. I apologize for the technical mishap, guys. Let me just find out how many more slides we need to go through. But in the meantime, let's give her at least 1 more minute.
yes, sorry,
Annunciata, hello.
yes. Thank you so much, Terry. So I'm saying about the informing community about water management, the water conflict, getting
Hello,
the
Annunciata. I'm
span.
sorry we are not able to hear you
Yes,
well.
sorry.
You seem to be moving or in a windy place. Your voice
Hear
audio
me?
is not stable. Your audio is not stable.
Can
Are
you
you
hear
able
me?
to move to a? Sorry?
Can you hear me?
Your audio is it's there's some noise in your background and your audio is windy. We can't hear you well. Kindly move to somewhere where there's some peace and quiet, and probably could also adjust your mouthpiece.
Sorry. Yes, it's the network issues. So about the management, as highlighted, there is also the conflict as well as the potential for conflict due the water surface. Here, the about the conflict, also we, as you know, between the one of the river Nile, the Egypt, Ethiopia, and the other countries like Sudan, there is a conflict between water from the Nile River. One country needed to explore the water from Nile River, it's safe, and the other one needed to be owned. They don't need needed to share those water. So the conflict water also here we have to highlight it in order to inform them that the water management is for everyone, not for one country, and they have to share those water. Next slide. Next slide. Can you hear me?
Hello, Annunciata.
Yes.
I'm sorry we are not able to proceed with your presentation because we can hardly hear what you're saying. And also, we are
Sorry.
losing a lot of time. We are not able to hear
Can you
what
hear
you're
me?
saying. There's a lot of, it's not
Can
clear.
you
Your
hear
audio
me?
is not clear. No, your audio is not clear. There's something wrong with your mouthpiece, or you're either moving or you're in a windy place. We can't hear what you're saying. So maybe just to
Yes.
summarize, please say something so I can hear if it is stable now.
Yes, summary, I think it's in my network which is not stable. About the summary, the challenges as a journalist we are facing, the first is the lack of knowledge of reporting on water because the publications are in scientific language. We need to know more about water reporting. Another one is the financial support because those stories are very expensive and the scientists also are not cooperative with media. Some of them and cooperative. When a journalist needs to report on water, there is the challenge of collaborate with any scientist. Another challenge is about the information from the officials. To access to information also is a challenge for journalists when we are engaging to report on water. So I think about the journalistic, we need the findings helped me to know how I can analyze data, how I can measure the water in the ground, how I can use those information in reporting on water in my country. When I needed to report on water, now I can do it because I have some basic information. But for the other journalists, also need to know more about water reporting.
Okay. Thank you so much, Annonciata. It's unfortunate that we were not able to hear the better part of your presentation, but maybe I would give the floor to Dr. Judith. Dr. Judith, considering you worked on the story with Annonciata, are you able to maybe highlight or maybe like what are some of the highlights you can make out of the story that was done by Annonciata? Just give us like maybe 3 to 5 highlights of the story that was done by Annonciata. And ladies and gentlemen, I know you are not able to get the journalistic perspective of this because of poor internet connection. You can read the story here. I'm sharing the link right now. But I'm going to give a chance to Dr. Judith to probably just take us through some of the highlights that were given in the story. Dr. Judith, are you able to do this?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not sure if I will be able to give like a strong highlight of what she was talking about, but mainly she highlighted the challenges faced by journalists toward scientists and the other policymakers. And also she highlighted the lack of knowledge of journalists in the area of water. And she also highlighted about the conflict between water users, like for drinking purposes, for agriculture purposes, for industry purposes, which is like a challenge, like a competition between water users. Coming back to the one that to the other issue that she highlighted about approaching researchers and scientists to be able to publish water-related popular publications. I could say that it's true that for us researchers or scientists, we are not very, sincerely speaking, we are not very open to journalists. And the main reason is journalists want us to to simplify our scientific languages so that it can be, our languages can be understandable by a layman, by everyone, but we also have that challenge of simplifying our scientific languages, a proper terminology, an easy terminology that I can use to communicate with a journalist, because I don't know how or his capacity to understand my scientific area. That's the main challenge that make like that bring a gap between scientists or researchers and journalists. And to bridge this gap, as she said, she mentioned as well that journalists reporting about, let's say, about water, they need to learn water related languages, and it will be a good way to be able to communicate, because when you don't have same language, same level of understanding of a given topic, it's very hard to communicate. If they manage to get to be well trained in areas where they are communicating, that gap will be bridged, and we will be open to collaborating with them, because we also need our findings to be published in a language that can be understandable by everyone, of course with the help of journalists. So that's all I could say about her presentation, though I cannot cover everything because her presentation was not shared with me
Okay.
to, to be shared.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Judith. I'm glad you've taken us through some of the key issues that she had highlighted in her presentation. I appreciate. Maybe we're going to move on to the next session of the next section of this program, and we are going to move to the discussion session. I'm going to ask you 2 to 3 questions, and ask the general public to also ask you questions that you would like you to address. One of the questions I'd like to ask: what would you say are some of the major challenges in managing groundwater resources in drought-prone regions, like you've mentioned in Rwanda's Eastern Province and in Burundi?
Should I answer directly?
Yeah.
Okay. The main challenge that Rwanda is facing to be able to monitor groundwater fluctuation is the distribution of groundwater observation wells network. So, in a normal way, all over the world, they do use groundwater observation wells. Those are like pipes that we insert in the soil to be able to know the level of groundwater below the soil. So the distribution of those equipment of groundwater observation well is very sparse. They are very sparse. Means that they are not representative of the entire country. That's the main challenge. They are very sparse. They are very few in a way that you cannot really be able to monitor change in groundwater for the entire country. So they need to be like improved in terms of number and also data recording. That is the first challenge of groundwater monitoring in Rwanda. Another challenge, it is like labor intensive. Some of the boreholes or groundwater observation wells, they're not automated. They need someone to regularly go there and record the data on daily basis, which is really difficult and also time consuming. And the one which are automated, they are sometimes not functional, and we get data gap, and once there are data gaps, it's very difficult to know the trends in groundwater fluctuation. It's very hard to know if their groundwater storage is increasing or decreasing. So in brief, relying on boreholes or groundwater observation wells for the case of Rwanda and also in Africa in general, it's very difficult. But for our research, we used another way of using the satellite one, which is the global gravity-based groundwater storage anomalies, which can give the data for the entire world, for all the countries. But those data also ended in 2020, which is again a challenge because we can't know the situation now unless we get access again to those kind of data. Those are challenges of groundwater monitoring for the case of our study area. If I could mention few, maybe Annonciata has some other challenges that she observed.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And Annonciata is still saying her network is still not stable, so it's unfortunate we'll not be able to engage her. But maybe Annonciata, if you can hear the question and you're able to respond, please feel free to respond via the chat box. You can type in your response in the chat box. The other question I have for you, Dr. Judith, is you being a groundwater specialist, and with, of course, knowledge or interest with also climate adaptation strategies, do you think groundwater monitoring alone can provide sufficient data for drought prediction? Or do you think this is just part of a broader climate adaptation strategy?
Yeah, sincerely speaking, despite the challenges of groundwater observation wells, which are still few in Africa and in Rwanda as well, groundwater could be a good source of information to predict drought hazard if there was no challenge of the number of groundwater observation wells. However, as I said in my presentation, there are two categories of drought hazard. For hydrological one, groundwater could be sufficient, but we also know the meteorological one, rainfall or precipitation could still be useful.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe my last question before I open the floor to the rest of the audience. How do you keep communities motivated in these conservation efforts? Because we know there's so much policymakers, the government, and even scientists can do. So for it to be sustainable or even practical in the long run, how do you ensure that communities are engaged and motivated in these conservation efforts?
Yeah, the community is already engaged because they have no limitation in groundwater use so that it can not be exhausted. For example, there are a number of associations, especially in the eastern and the southeastern regions of Rwanda, where the people, the community that relies on groundwater have limited time to fetch groundwater. They put a limit. They have a limited number of time to fetch groundwater, which means that they cannot overuse or misuse groundwater in a way that they want. They have limits. And in that way, I believe that they are preserving the reserve that we still have. And that's the reason why we are now in a positive trend as compared to the years before we were in a negative trend of groundwater storage. So the engagement of the community is crucial because they are the one relying on groundwater to solve water challenges.
Okay, that is very good to note. So I'm going to open the floor to the general audience. Anyone who'd like to ask a question, please feel free to use the raise hand emoji, and I'll give you a chance to direct your question to Dr. Judith. Anyone who has a question? Anything you took note of? Any concerns you have about groundwater monitoring? Maybe as we wait for the questions to come, Dr. Judith, how do you think journalists and scientists can continue to collaborate more effectively to tell impactful stories on water and climate resilience?
As I said before, journalists need to be trained about some at least to have basics in water related languages. Because if I say, for example, groundwater monitoring wells, and there is no simple way to say that. It's very hard for me to communicate with the journalists if I'm not able to simplify that term, and also if the journalist is not able to like to understand what I'm talking about. So there is a need to improve the communication way on both sides. For us as scientists, we need, of course, to try our best to simplify our language so that we can be able to make popular publication and also collaborate with journalists. But journalists also need to be like to have at least basics. We cannot require them to learn all, but at least basic
Okay.
terms of
Okay.
communicating science.
Okay, so I think what you basically mean is that we need to get interested in each of our spheres. Journalists should get more interested in what scientists are doing and get to know the basic knowledge, terminology, and jargon of what's used. And same as the scientists should also get to know how to communicate these outputs better to the journalists. That was good to know because this is actually the essence of the Nile Scientist Journalist Co-Production Program to ensure that there is better collaboration and communication of the scientific output. So that is very good to note, Dr. Judy. Thank you for that. I can see we have a question from Caroline Tomno. Caroline, feel free to unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, my question is to the scientist about the research. From the research, what did they find about the quality of the groundwater?
Thank you, Caroline, for your question. Our research was mainly to monitor groundwater storage quantity in terms of quantity, not quality, because drought is not caused by water quality, but instead water quantity. So we only limited ourselves to the quantity rather than quality.
Quantity rather than quantity. Yeah, thank you for
And
making
quality.
us note that. Mhm. Sorry?
We monitored groundwater storage in terms of quantity, amount, not the quality, because
Yes,
drought
yes.
is not caused by water quality, but instead water quantity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. We have a question from Henry Owino, Kenya. His question is the groundwater of Rwanda likely to get completely depleted in the few years to come due to the population increase and demand? Dr. Judith, are you able to respond to that?
Yeah, I'm able to respond to that. Yeah, according to the popular publications, it was documented that Rwanda has, it was in 2000 and in 2023, that it has been reported that our groundwater reserve can be used, it can be exhausted in less than 5 years. That's the information that was reported. And our research aims to check the trend. If we are going to negative, if groundwater is really depleting now, or if it is restoring. But based on our findings, groundwater for the three catchment that we studied on, groundwater storage is increasing, not decreasing, which is a good indicator that we still have some reserve of groundwater because our groundwater is getting additional amount through rainfall, which means it is recharging, it is restoring instead of depleting. That's the current trend.
Okay. Um, that is good to note the groundwater recharge. And I think there's a cross-border story we did on the same about how groundwater recharges from surface water and rainwater. Yeah, so I think in the interest of time, we're going to close the question and answer session from that. If you still have a question, please feel free to you can type it in the chat box. I'll give you a chance to ask at the end. I'm going to move to the next session, which is the Q&A session, where we're going to award the best participant, the best winner, the one who gets all the questions right. We'll ask 5 questions. This section will be handled by Chris. So, Chris, are you with us?
Yes, Dilly, thank you so much. Good evening to everyone. I don't know if my network is okay. Today we've had challenges with the internet, but sorry for that. Yes, let's jump straight into it. So we're going to ask you 5 questions from our research that has been shared by Dr. Judith. And just type your correct answer into the chat or the message area. Delhi will help me and we shall single out the winners after we've asked the questions. I hope that's fine. Okay, mate. So, starting off, question 1. According to the research discussed, the long dry season from dash and an annual drought from dash resulted in the death of about 237 and affected close to 4.2 million. Let me read it again. According to the research discussed, the long dry season from dash and an annual drought from dash resulted in the deaths of about 237 and affected close to 4.2 million. So, A, is it from 1994 to 2001, 2002, 2005, or is it B, 1998 to 2000, 2002 to 2005, or is it C, 1993, 2004, 2002, 2000 to 2004? So is it A, B, or C? So according to research discussed, the long dry season from dash and an annual drought from dash resulted in the death of about 207 people and affected close to 4.2 million. The answers are A, 94 to 2001, 2002, 2005, B, 98 to 2000, 2002, 2005, or C, 1993, 2004, or 2000 and 2004. Just put your answer in the... Okay.
Chris, you have 3 answers. We have Caroline Tomno, 2002 to 2013. And then we have Clementine and Caroline. Caroline also said A. So Caroline has 2
None.
answers. Which is the correct answer? None.
None.
Okay. Let's move
Wait
to
for
the
one
next
more.
one.
Maybe there's one person coming.
I think now we've narrowed down to only 2. No, that will not. Let's move to the next question.
We move to the next. Okay.
Yeah.
Which 2 areas of Rwanda experienced recurring periods of drought and heat that resulted in extreme poverty and food insecurity? And read it again. Which 2 areas of Rwanda experienced recurring periods of drought and heat waves that resulted in extreme poverty and insecurity and food insecurity? Hey, Henry has come through. Henry is there. Henry has got number A. I mean number 1. So he has said B. So Delhi,
Okay.
consider Henry. So number 2 again, let me read it again. Which 2 areas of Rwanda experienced recurring periods of drought and heat waves that resulted in extreme poverty and food insecurity?
Okay. In the interest of time, Chris, we're going to move. Anyone else who has an answer? Let's, in the interest of time, please type in your answer, chap chap. 2 areas.
Of
The
Rwanda
name
that
of the area.
experienced recurring periods of drought and heat waves that resulted in extreme poverty and food insecurity. Henry, no, sorry.
Okay, I think we're going
Noisy,
to
no.
close it here. Let's close this one here. Kagera, Eastern Rwanda, Kagera Upper, and there's another. We have closed this question. What is the correct answer?
It is east and southeastern regions of Rwanda.
Okay, so no
East
one
and
has gotten it.
southeastern regions of Rwanda. Okay. Number 3, what is more labor intensive and often associated with data gaps? Is it A, solar-based groundwater monitoring? Is it B, fossil-powered groundwater monitoring? Or is it C, borehole-based groundwater monitoring? Which is more labor-intensive and often associated with data gaps? Is it A, solar-based groundwater monitoring? B, fossil-powered groundwater monitoring? Or is it C, borehole-based groundwater monitoring? Thank you.
We have
I see
two
C.
answers so far.
Who came first? Henry came first. C is the correct
Henry,
answer.
yeah. So Henry has 2.
Okay. All right. Question 4.
Next question.
Is the recent alternative technique of groundwater monitoring and analysis at a global scale that has been developed? So dash is the recent alternative technique of groundwater monitoring and analysis at a global scale that has been developed. The question is, what is GP3P in full? The question is, what is GP3 in full? Because GP3 is the recent alternative technique of groundwater monitoring and analysis at a global scale that has been developed. So just type in the comments, what is GP3 in full?
3 more seconds.
They're typing.
It's going to be a Google answer.
Oh, Henry.
There's
Henry is correct.
there's Caroline Tom, no global gravity
Oh,
based. Which
Caroline.
one is
By
the
the
correct one?
Caroline came before. I don't know who came before. On my side, I see Caroline came before.
Caroline, yeah.
Hey. Okay,
But
so
which
Caroline
one?
got that one.
So Caroline has the
But
end of the statement is different. Henry is
excuse
the
me,
correct one. Yeah?
the correct one is from Henry, Global Gravity-Based
Oh,
Groundwater Project. That
Project.
means
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
okay.
The last part is different.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Thank you, doctor. All right,
Thank
finally,
you.
number
Henry has
5.
3.
Okay, number 5. What is the name of the index that is used to monitor anomaly in groundwater level that is an effect of drought on the existing water table that is used to predict the hydrological drought? What is the name of the index that is used to monitor anomaly in groundwater level that is an effect of drought on the existing water table that is used to predict hydrological drought? Just type the answer in the comment section. I'll read it one more time. What is the name of the index that is used to monitor anomaly in the groundwater level that is an effect of drought on the existing water table that is used to predict the hydrological drought? So they're typing.
Uh-huh. 5 seconds so we can close.
It's not short, it's not a simple thing. Let's give 6 seconds. What is the name of the index that is used to monitor anomaly in groundwater level that is an effect of drought on the existing water table that is used to predict the hydrological drought? That's on the tough one, guys. That's on the tough one.
Okay, I think Chris give us the answer.
The answer
Even me myself, I
is
don't think I would have gotten it, yeah.
The answer is standardized groundwater level index. Am I correct, doctor?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so those are the 5 questions. Thank you guys for taking the time. Everyone who got involved, thank you so much. And thank you, doctor, for the presentation. It was wonderful. Over to you, Delhi.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Dr. Judith, for guiding us through the questions. And there was a question that someone asked when we had just started. I think it is from Lake. I can't see him in the chat box. I can't see him among the members. I think he has dropped off the call. But the question is to Dr. Judith. I have one question. What are the learning lessons about groundwater conservation you think can be adopted by the members of the countries for the benefits of the local communities in East Africa region? What are the lessons you think they can be adopted by the ESC community? What do you think can be adopted, in short, by other countries? Maybe as Dr. Judith is preparing to answer, the winner of today is Henry Owino from Kenya. Finally, the crown has been lifted off Caroline Tono. Tono, I think, has won for the past six times, 6 or 7, if I'm not wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, good job, Caroline. I can see today you tried, but man, you tried. I don't think I would have gotten any of the questions myself. Henry, good job.
Kenya
Please
wins.
send me. Henry, please send me a message with the number you prefer to the money to be sent to you. Usually, at the end of the session, we award the best participant of the session. In this case, it was Caroline. No, sorry, it was Henry Owino. Congratulations, Henry. Dr. Judith, are you able to respond to the question?
Yeah, about the reason that it could be shared to other East African countries. Yeah, we could say the reason that we have to learn groundwater once depleted, it's very hard to be restored. It can be depleted in a very fast way, but restoration will take more and more time to get the level of groundwater that we are supposed to have. So the reason that other East African country members should learn is to preserve the groundwater that we currently have to avoid depletion because it's very hard to be restored. And that preservation of groundwater is linked, of course, to anthropogenic activities. Whenever you change the land use, for example, whenever you cut trees, you are always exposing the groundwater to depression. So we should learn how to preserve the groundwater resources that we have by avoiding all land uses that are prone to bringing to depleting groundwater.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Judith. And I wish Cole was here, would be able to respond to whether the question has been adequately answered to him. But one key takeaway is that groundwater is very hard to replenish once you have depleted it. So, guys, that is our key takeaway. Let us strive to ensure that the groundwater in our areas of jurisdiction are well conserved. Thank you so much, Dr. Judith. Thank you so much, Annonciata, for making time to be with us. And congratulations for coming to the end of your fellowship, the Nile Scientists Journalists Co-Production Fellowship. Guys, we have come to the end of our session. We are 7 minutes late, but we really appreciate the fact that you've stayed with us till the end. We are going to have the next session of Nile Science Wednesday on the 28th of May, and we shall be hosting National Geographic once again. We hope to have all of you with us. In the meantime, I'll just request you to continue engaging with our content. There's someone who had asked if we can be able to share the presentations. So both presentations for both the scientists and the journalists will be added to our Nilewell resources section. The link I have shared here, but also I'm going to send you all an email tomorrow with the details of how you can be able to access the resources, both presentation and even the live live recording of this session. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate your time and your patience to be with us, your participation as well. I hope you have yourselves a good evening. Feel free to unmute your mic and say bye before you go. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Clementine.
Yeah.
Bye.